चलता रहे ये कारवां दिल दिल Pakistan Jahan Jahan Pakistan.
Here people are not protected. You're talking about animals.
Some people say, oh, you're cursed to live in Pakistan, but I feel blessed to live in Pakistan because you've got some of the best food I've ever had, some of the best people, some of the best mountains. And she says, well, I don't meet people for coffee, but she sent back a heart. And I said, this means she must like me, maybe. I said, don't go to Pakistan. You're going into the belly of the beast.
Yeah.
You're going into a place, and even if you help those people, their children are going to grow up to bomb us. So why are you going there? Aksar zameen ka nizam, kuwate ya kuwate awam.
Assalamualaikum Khudin Hafrat. Welcome back to another podcast of Think Digital. My name is Munir Ahmed. Today I have a very special guest in the podcast. His name is Todd Shea. आपने काफ़ी सारे इंटरव्यूज़ के अंदर इनको देखा होगा. He is basically founder of CDRS. CDRS है क्या जी? ये है जी Comprehensive Disaster Response Services. Todd Shea से बात करेंगे और ये पूरी conversation will be in English because he has a very limited access to Urdu or he speak very few words of Urdu. So I'll try to have a very comprehensive conversation with him and let's see किस तरह का जाता है ये, because this is the very first podcast for me जहाँ पे मैं भी पूरी की पूरी podcast English में करेंगे. Todd Shea, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Munir.
So it's been, I think, 6-7 hours you're traveling all the way from Islamabad to Lahore?
Yeah, well, we traveled yesterday.
Oh, you traveled yesterday.
And just in time to get to an event that was on Mouthful Restaurant, MML Road area.
Okay.
And it was a beautiful event they had there. A friend who passed away, Dr. Muhammad Riaz Khan,
okay.
His family and his friends, including a Pakistani-American gentleman named Mohammed Naeem, came from New York City to open up this library
okay.
at the basement of the restaurant, which was to have a repository of literary works as well as books on philosophy and religion and things to preserve culture and the intellectual as well as artistic literature and things about Pakistan
okay.
that are sometimes being forgotten about these days by the young ones. So they want to preserve that, and they have made this thing. So yesterday I was at that event, and it was a beautiful event. And then today, been having meetings all day and with various people like the Lahore Development Authority chairman, or you can say Director General, about our animal welfare program, and then some of our other donors. In fact, we have a couple donors that came in from Houston, Texas, who are from here. They met with them today. So a lot of different meetings, and I love coming to Lahore because it's a beautiful city.
So you're based out of Islamabad, right?
I'm based in Islamabad, and come to Lahore about once a month.
Okay, all right.
And really enjoy it every time.
Sure. So Todd, I would like to know about your initial life. Where were you born, and your studies, and then how did you get into your professional career? So if you could explain that, please. Well, first of all, sorry to cut you here. First of all, I would like to know about the meaning of your name, Todd Shea. So, because it's a confusing Todd Shea or Todd Shea.
Well, it's a lot of people here pronounce it as she or Shea because it's SHEA, and it looks like that, right? So that phonically is what it would seem to be. But in Ireland, back in the days when they came up with the names, I don't know, maybe they had too much drinking alcohol or something, but the name and the spellings are like backwards, you know. When you say Shea, Todd Shea, which is the correct pronunciation, it would look like SHAE.
Right.
But it's SHEA.
Okay. And
still they pronounce it as Shea, even though when you look at it, it doesn't really work that way. But that's how it is. That's how they came up with it. And it was, in fact, O'Shea. Okay. So the O'Shea clan from Kerry County in Ireland, my great-grandfather, in fact, two great-grandfathers came from there and came to America. And so basically that's on both my mother and father's side, there's Irish, and I have 1/4 Lithuanian.
Okay.
From my grandmother. But so basically, they came to America and came through New York, and they took the O off there. So what was O'Shea became Shea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had your schooling from US, right?
You could call it that. I mean, I grew up in America in the Washington, D.C. area, in Maryland. And unfortunately, my mother passed away when I was 12.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And so after that, because I wasn't close with my father, I was kind of an orphan because of that, and kind of made my own way through life. And music saved me. So my love for the guitar, which was a gift that my mother had given me before she died. And there's another interesting story about the other gift she gave me that relates to Pakistan. So this guitar she gave me became my way of dealing with my grief, dealing with life without her, and to remember her by, right? So I, unfortunately, because of my grief about my situation, I was very much lost. So even though music was my savior, I also got into drugs and hanging in the wrong crowd. So I was taking cocaine and, charis and alcohol and all as a kid.
It was
13,
teenage.
Yeah. And I several times almost died, from overdosing on some of these substances. But I guess you can say Allah had bigger plans for me.
Definitely.
And he saved me from my own stupidities. Eventually, music did get me to a professional level where I got out of that. So schooling, I didn't do much in school.
Oh, okay.
And I barely graduated from high school. And during my high school years, was mostly in trouble, one way or the other, from drugs or fighting and these kind of things. But because I was good at guitar, I got into the bands and I got hanging around with older kids, and so there was good and bad, right? But eventually I was able to escape that. I joined the United States Marine Corps.
Okay.
And while I was in the United States Marines training, I actually had gone there, and it's a big no-no to not tell them the truth that you have done these drugs before.
Right.
So I had not told them because I thought if I told them, they won't accept me.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, a month later, when the blood test that they give you at the airport, a surprise test they give. So about a month later, the drill instructor came to me and said, "Private Shea, go in front of the company commander, pack all your trash and come and pack all your things." So I went in front of him and he says, "Private Shea, do you know anything about cocaine?" I said, "Sir, no, sir." He goes, "I think you do." And he showed me the test results being positive for cocaine. So they threw me out of the Marine Corps, and I went back home. And for some time, I was very sad that I messed this opportunity up, and I was tough on myself. But I had become, while I was there, I got the drug out of my system, and I promised I'll never do it again. So this little time in Marine Corps was like a drug rehab, and I got it out of my system, and I focused on music. And after that, I got successful in music, and then I was able to escape from that life of drugs.
Okay, so you basically quit taking any sort of drug.
Okay. Well, I guess you can say that caffeine, I still stayed.
This is for everybody.
Coca-Cola, these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm always addicted to the cheeseburgers or, and here in Pakistan, chicken roll paratha and, a good mutton fry or makki ki roti, these kinds of things.
Okay, all right. You had a very, very tough childhood life because of the circumstances you have been to, and then music basically helped you out to come out of this whole trauma, and then you basically started pursuing your music career properly. So you have been a guitarist, right?
Yes.
Or a vocalist?
Guitarist, vocalist, and writing songs. Okay. I did a little bit of everything. But yeah, I was able to use my creativity to make a living and to become successful. And then what I did during that period was I would speak to a lot of children and kids who were doing drugs, and they were in a situation that I had been in before.
Right.
And I was at a point in my drug addiction where nobody, not a single person on this earth would have cared that whether I died or lived, they paid no mind. I could have died in the gutter. Nobody would have missed me, or it was that low for a while that I got down to. And so I understand kids and people who have been addicted and been in that situation. So when I see some addicted person, I was there in the gutter. I know what it's like. So I would talk to kids, and I would use my music to try to write songs about these subjects, talk to kids, and try to save some of them from this, this horrible, thing of drug addiction.
I see. So at what point of your early age you basically figure out you're a good musician? Because sometimes most of the young kids, they don't realize, you do something, but you do not realize it's the basically profession I would like to get into.
Well, I never thought about it at the time, but when I was 12 and my mother had bought me a guitar for Christmas.
Right.
And she died a month before Christmas, and I got that guitar. I was given it from as a gift. And because of my mother passing away and wanting to learn guitar, that helped direct my passion towards the guitar. But then I realized I had a talent by ear. Okay. Even though I didn't know how to read music, I could listen to somebody and I could copy the sound of that. I became like, I would sit for hours and play, and I would listen to, my favorite guitarist or my favorite band. And after a few hours, I could play whatever I was hearing. I could play that.
So you learn everything by practicing
by ear, yes.
Okay.
And I got so good that bands would take me. And I remember going and having one lesson with a guitar school. And the guitar teacher, after about 5 minutes, said, "I don't think I can teach you." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because you're better than I am.
Really?
You're already more advanced as a guitar player than I am. So what I can teach you, maybe you can teach me something." So from that point on, I really just listened to my favorite guitar players, and they became my teachers just by watching them and listening to them and trying to copy what they were doing. And
so you have not basically taken any formal education in the music side?
Nothing.
It's all just practice?
It's all by ear, natural ability, and we call it woodshedding.
Okay.
It's like when you go in the woodshed and you don't come out for hours and hours and hours. You stay there all day. So you're practicing on one thing until you get that right. And next day you try another thing. So after a year, 2 or 3, then you become, you master that thing. So I don't know how to read music. I don't know music theory, but I've had experts in music theory tell me that what I'm playing and what I was doing is the application of a theory that I might not understand from a educational sense, but I'm doing it more than what they know how to do, even though they understand the concept that of that music theory. They cannot play it, but I'm playing it.
Right.
And I've always kind of been that kind of a guy. I do things on feel. I do things on this natural ability, and but I'm not studied in understanding how to explain it to somebody, or even understanding how it's written out in theory. Yeah. But I can play it better than they can.
I see. So I have heard some of your song out here. You talked about national anthem of Pakistan. You talked about different other songs as well. Yeah. So would you be basically interested in singing maybe a national anthem for us, if you can?
Well, the thing is that without my guitar, I feel a little. I should have brought my guitar with me. I didn't think about that. But I do. I do.
Maybe a few lines.
Dil Dil Pakistan as well.
Dil Dil Pakistan.
Pak Sar Zameen Ka Nizam, Kuwate Kuwate Awam, Kam Mulk Sultanat Payinda Tabindabad.
So very nice.
This kind of thing I can do. But I'm not as well practiced on the national anthem as I am on. I get asked to do Dil Dil Pakistan almost every day by someone somewhere. And
maybe a few lines from Dil Dil Pakistan.
Sure. Essi Zameen aur Asman inke siva Jana kahan बढ़ती rahe ye roshani chelta rahe ye caravan dil dil Pakistan Jahan Jahan Pakistan dil dil Pakistan, Jahan, Pakistan.
You got absolutely mesmerizing voice.
It's better with the guitar because with the guitar I just feel it together, right?
Right.
When I don't have the guitar, I feel like there's something
you can
backing
sync
up
with the music and the instruments.
I've played with so many bands. I've done it on stage with many of the famous bands of Pakistan.
Okay, so Todd, why you left your music career as a profession and then get into this, society work or community give back? And I think so. Back in 2005, you have decided this. So would you like to shed some light on this?
Sure. Well, my dear mother, Allah rest her soul, she was the kind of person, and I witnessed this many times as a child, her giving money to somebody who needed it, and she would give her last dime to somebody if she felt they needed it more. And one day, not long before she died, she said to me that, see all these cars on the highway, the taillights and the headlights. Inside, they just might look like a bunch of cars and lights, but inside of them, there's so many people. And it was during a traffic jam, like on the way here today.
Yeah.
And she said, there's human beings in there, and they all have their troubles and their triumphs and their tragedies, and they're good and bad. And we should care about everybody. These are all human beings, so you should always remember to care about human beings, even if they're on the other side of the world. So never forgot this. And as I progressed in my music career, I always wanted to use my music to always give something to those who are, whether it was through the money I made or through the music I made, to try to give some message and try to help people. That's just what was in me. That was what I felt. So as I got more successful in the music business, the more I hated the business side of music.
Okay.
Because I saw other artists who were even big and successful, struggling and hardly having anything. And the record company owned everything and basically owned them, and they were under contract. And after they paid their band, the managers, the lawyers, the record company, and the recording costs and the tour costs and everything was paid, sometimes they were not only no money, but they were owing money still.
Oh, okay.
I've seen people with gold records that had nothing. So they look like a star and they have this appearance of a star, but they were struggling a lot. So I started looking into it more and seeing that the contracts were very unfair to artists. And to this day, it's even worse. So you see many wonderful artists of Pakistan who are so talented, but if you know them and you hang out with them, and not just here, but in America or anywhere, it seems like in a music business, there's a lot of exploitation where the artist, because they're so much wanting fame, they sign a bad deal that later on they want to renegotiate and they can't get out of, or they'd have to go to court and get it tied up for years in courts, and then they don't have the time or money to spend fighting these powerful corporate entities in court. So what happens is only the most successful, huge artists that end up making it so big, they got millions, then they have the money to fight and they have the power and the clout to redo their contracts. But everybody else struggles. So I saw this and I thought to myself, I don't know if I want that kind of life. But I was in New York and I was signed to, or I came to New York and was signed to a management deal from Sid Bernstein. And Sid Bernstein had brought the Beatles and Rolling Stones and Jethro Tull to America. He had managed and promoted Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Judy Garland, many 60s artists, 50s artists. And by the time he met me, he was in his 90s, and he really liked my music, and he signed me. And he said, I like your music, and I like your style and your direction, so I'm going to try to help you do what you want to do, which is to make music, but also do good in the world. Because I told him what I want to do is I want to do music, but also do good with it. I'm not just interested in playing in front of thousands of people, getting a gold records, making a big money. I also want to make a social impact and make a change with my music. And so he was on board with that. He signed me, and we recorded an album, and he set up a showcase for me to meet with many big major labels and many investors and things like that. But unfortunately, that was set up for 12th of September 2001. Okay. So the day before was 9/11.
Right.
And when 9/11 happened, and I saw this from my hotel window happening, I immediately forgot about music and forgot about this gig. And of course, it was canceled anyway because of what happened, right? So my big moment got eclipsed and canceled by, and I'm not complaining. It's just what happened. You know, so many people were impacted much more than I, and lost lives, and So who am I to complain? But this did occur in my life to where it changed everything. I went down to Ground Zero. I ended up working down there and helping the firefighters and the policemen and the people that were scrambling to go into burning, still smoldering buildings, and even with rescue dogs, and come in there and search for victims. And so I was helping to supply them. So I learned at Ground Zero that I was actually really good at logistics, getting people who are trained to go into these kinds of situations where I was not trained, but I was able to get them the things they need, find the things they need, whether it was medicine or whether it was some kind of supplies or clothing they need, or specialized gear or food and whatever they needed, even for their dogs. Like I was able to scramble and get those things and set up a little place right at the scene of the towers to like a little store to give the rescuers whatever they needed. It was also the same place where anytime they found a body, they had a refrigerator truck next block over I was between Ground Zero and the truck. So anytime somebody was found, whether it was a firefighter or some victim of 9/11 that was in the towers, that body would come by. So we saw all these terrible things. But it was there that I realized that my true calling was not music as much as it was doing this kind of work. So after this working at Ground Zero for a week, I realized after 1 week I wasn't needed anymore. In the first days when everything was a chaos, what I did, kind of like a lone wolf, that was needed. But after 5 days, they had everything managed and they had everything set up. And I looked around, I was like, I'm in the way now. Now I'm not needed anymore. So I got out of there and I left, but that changed me forever.
There was a changing moment in your life.
After that, I went to other disasters and other places of need, and I found more satisfaction in my soul. Although it was not a place, as a financial decision, it was a stupid decision. But I never made decisions based on how much money I'll make.
Right.
I know other people do, and that's important to them, but it's never been important to me.
And how old you were when you decided to basically get into this stuff?
Well, on 9/11, I was about 32, 34 years old.
That's a peak time for any young kid.
Yeah.
And definitely you would have been at a very, very
well, I was,
position.
for the music business, it's actually a little old because most kids, they make it in their teenagers or in their 20s.
Yeah.
So I was already, in my 30s, but I was mature enough at that point to not just sign any deal and not just go for any career, but I had what I wanted. I was going to go for a career that was going to be using music to help others. And if I didn't make as much money, that was okay for me. So I was, and Sid was also willing to help me in that regard. Sid Bernstein, before he died. Yeah. And he had a lot of people that he knew. So it could have been, one direction of my life. But after 9/11, I just didn't feel the spirit in me of going down that road of the music business. So I remained writing songs. I remained playing. I remained doing all these things, but I would always play for the charity work and for and use it for that side of things. And so when it comes to my decision about music, it had to do with the business side of things and nothing to do with the artistic side, because that side is carried on, and I continue to do that.
Precisely, Todd, what you're saying is the business side is a darker side of the whole industry. The real money is not with the artist. The real money is with the organization who are managing this whole show for the artist, right? Yes.
And I'm not here to sit and put down every record company or every executive. There are good people everywhere, right? They're good people, but the system is geared towards the profit of the record company, and it's geared towards basically using the artist as a commodity and paying all the bills, and a lot of times they're left with nothing, and deals are signed that are not fair, that are not good for the artist, and the artist, by the time and their career starts going downhill and they're finished and they have nothing or they have very little, it's very sad to see. I've seen this a lot.
Things
we only see the biggest ones,
yeah.
But the other ones that go by the wayside, it's not an easy life. So I do think there should be some reform, but you know what? In our world today, it seems like every industry needs reform.
But I personally believe, because same thing was happening in the overall news industry, or you can call it as a drama industry. Now what happening is basically the artists, they were not supposed to make any video and put it on the YouTube. And let's say if one artist is signed for PTV, he's not supposed to work with Hum TV or Geo TV or any other TV, but not anymore. Now all the artists, they have their own YouTube channels, they are working on different platforms, even the same with the singers. Even singers are working with multiple different companies who are, publishing their albums and who are just, giving them stages. But now what change I have seen is majority of the artists, they are not just taking salary or a fixed amount. They are signing a contract with the percentage. Let's say if one concert is making, let's say, 10 million. So it's not going directly to the organization who is managing it. It will be a share base, basically. The artist will get a percentage out of it.
And artists these days are, this is back 22 years ago, but now, because of internet and because of learning more and seeing some of these things themselves, I made this decision back then before all this was kind of as known. But now artists today are much more savvy to understand contracts and understand what their publishing rights are and their merchandising rights and other things that they can keep for themselves. So some of them have done much better at just being without a record label, because now they have the internet and they have things that at that time were very much in its infancy or not even available yet to most artists. So yes, it's a much different time. Now record companies and managers and lawyers, and they all have their place, and I also want them to have they should also have a fair deal for themselves. They should be able to make money. But in years past, and maybe even still to this day, it's a little bit, has been historically weighted in the favor of the record companies and the people who make money off the artists, but the artists themselves has to suffer and doesn't get as fair of a deal. So I want it to be fair. I'd like it to be fair for everybody. So this is not to bash, record companies, but my own personal feeling and what was personally important to me is that once I discovered about myself that I was good at logistics and actually operating in a disaster zone, and that I mentally was able to do it, I was physically able to do it, and I was able to succeed in very tough environments, in difficult situations that are changing, where moment to moment things are changing. Explosion happens here and they think 80-story building is going to fall on us, on our head. These things didn't seem to bother me. Like, I didn't get freaked out by that. I was mission focused. And so there's a lot of things about working in disaster zones that until you go there and in that situation, you don't know how you react. I've seen expert doctors come into a disaster zone with a lot of people who have died around, and a lot of, there's noise, there's helicopters, there's smells that are not good, the smell of death and the smell of injury and gangrene, and so many people crying and upset. There are people that are very, very much trained and educated all their life, but once they're in that situation, they have to leave. They can't handle it. It's not easy. They mentally can't handle it. Even at night, they cannot sleep at night because it's not their comfortable bed and it's hot or it's real cold. But Allah has given me one superpower, and that's that I can sleep anywhere, in any kind of environment. Too hot, no problem. Too cold, no problem. Not have just 20 minutes to get sleep and then I have to get up again, no problem.
Great.
I can operate for almost a month with only 1 or 2 hours of sleep a night. And this is something most people don't even know about themselves, if they can do or not. But I actually have been in the situation many times where I was able to learn about myself, what my limits actually are. And my limit after about 3.5 weeks is that if I only got 1 or 2 hours of sleep a night, I was fine. But after 3.5 weeks, I would collapse and need to sleep 2 days in order to catch up. Most people don't ever have that happen to even know how long they can last. But I would see many people not be able to last in these situations, and I was able to somehow go through it for months and months at a time and whatever. So I had this thing, this, I don't know, ability or capability that I only discovered by accident on 9/11.
Right.
And I felt like that was where I naturally wanted to go, needed to go. And I also felt that's where God was telling me, you know, he was telling me, you know, you always thought you'll be a musician and you will make it big and but I have other plans for you.
Plans.
And I said, okay.
And his plans are better than anybody else.
His plans are better, and it has been better. Without, you know, I'm sorry it took an earthquake to get me to Pakistan, but I wouldn't change my decision to come to Pakistan. I was, in 2005, I was at the tsunami in Sri Lanka. Then I was at the Hurricane Katrina in America. And the day I got back from Hurricane Katrina was the earthquake. And I came home, my older son, who is 32, I have a almost 2-year-old and a 32-year-old. So 30 years between sons. So I just came in the door, and we just sat down, and I brought a pizza. And I hadn't seen my son in a couple months because I was doing disaster work. And we sat there. He was about 16 at the time, something like that. And I said to him, I said, well, I think that I'm just going to relax for a couple weeks, you know, because I'm just back from disaster. We turned on the television. Earthquake in Pakistan is all over the news. So I said, I'm going to Pakistan. I looked at my son, I'm going to Pakistan. I didn't know how I was getting there. I didn't know who I was going with. I didn't know in what way I was going to put this together, but God gave me something else. Most people, they see something and they think, should I do this? Can I do this?
Yeah.
And then after thinking and figuring it out, then they decide to do it. Well, I decide to do something, then afterwards, after I've decided, then I figure out how I'll do this. But when you make, what I've learned, at least about myself, when you make an intention and a decision, and you have convicted that you are going to do that thing, then Allah opens doors for you.
And that was your first visit to Pakistan?
Yes. So I called the Pakistan Embassy after Googling on the computer, Pakistan Embassy, Washington, D.C. I called them, and they said, I said, I do this disaster logistics. I've been to 9/11. I just came back from Hurricane Katrina and tsunami. So if you need a logistics person, I'm happy to go voluntarily. I don't need any money. I just want to go and help. And part of me in the back of my mind also wanted to see that this Pakistan, I've heard a lot of bad things about it.
Yeah.
Everyone says there's Osama bin Laden is hiding behind every tree. We're ready to shoot you if you're American or cut your neck. And so I thought to myself, you know what? I would like to see for myself, because I don't trust our media and government anyway. And I bet you that there's something else going on. I don't know what it is, but let's find out. I'll take the opportunity to see for myself. Is this part of the world so horrible and dangerous and bad as what Fox News and CNN has said? Or is it like I suspected, that there was something not being told to me? Somebody has an agenda. And so I called the Pakistan Embassy. They gave me the name of some doctors with Islamic Medical Association of North America and with APNA, the Association of Physicians of Pakistani Descent of North America. And they were working together with Pakistan Medical Institute, Medical Association, and other Islamic medical associations around the world. So once I contacted them, they said to me, yes, you know, we have a team going, but we could use a logistics person. You know, we're a bunch of doctors, but we're going to be going into the mountains, so we could use a logistics guy. So on the basis of me having come from these other disasters, having experienced, they took me on board. So I started helping and working on getting all their stuff together. And just a few days later, I think I landed in Pakistan about 5 days after the earthquake, something like that.
And in which city you landed first time?
We landed in Islamabad.
And what was your first reaction when you landed to Islamabad?
Because
you heard a lot of bad thing about Pakistan, but when you landed,
it was really funny. It was actually funny. I landed at the airport, and I get off the plane, and because we had 2 Pakistani American doctors with us, the biggest part of the team had arrived the day before. And we still had some supplies to arrange and get on. So we stayed with the last 2 doctors. So it was just the 4 of us, not the big group that they'd already come. So the plan, we got in like 2, 3 in the morning. The plan was at first light to take off in the helicopter from Chakala Air Base and go into the disaster zone. So we had about 5 hours to get some rest and get something to eat. So what happened was I landed, I get off the plane, and there's all these journalists and there's people clapping for us like we've done something great. And I'm thinking, we haven't done anything yet, but they're appreciating that we've come. They see a couple Goras, because I had another guy with me that I brought. And so all these Goras that I worked with in other disasters, like 9/11, Hurricane, they said, don't go to Pakistan. You're going into the belly of the beast. Yeah. You're going into a place, and even if you help those people, their children are going to grow up to bomb us. So why are you going there? And I said, well, you know what? I bet you that this is not the case. I said, we'll bet on this, right? And so I came, and we get off the plane, and Eitizaz Essen,
yeah.
He's standing there. I didn't know who he was. I never met him. I didn't know him. I didn't know anything about Pakistan. But somebody said to me, this is a really big guy that is there standing. And I went up to him, and he says to me, he gives me a big hug, and he says, "Hi, Todd, I'm Eitizaz Essen. We've been expecting you. We're looking forward to you. We're going to take you home, and my wife Bushra and we have a nice meal for you and enjoy." So I get in the car with him, and we're going down the road, and he says, we were going to his place in F6. He says, this is a parliament, this is Supreme Court, and this is the President's House. And he says, and I'm a senator, and I'm former Interior Minister. And I said, oh, wow, so you are a big guy, because I didn't know, right? And he says, yes, well, I'm doing law, I have a law firm. And I said, so you're such a big guy in government, so you must be friends with President Musharraf. And he goes, I will do anything to get that guy out of power. I can't stand him. I don't like him. So then he started telling me some of his disagreements and problems with President Musharraf. So, and I always liked Musharraf, actually. Because I had read about him just before coming on the earthquake. I tried to catch up on whatever I could. Right. Who is the leader? What is going on in Pakistan? So even though I knew nothing about Pakistan, once I'm going to a country, I try to...
Yeah, you have been gathering basic information.
Yeah, read about it and find out. So that's how I learned about Musharraf, and then he was against him and politically, and then I started learning all these things. So we went to his house, he had a wonderful meal, Pakistani food. It was my first time having Pakistani food, and I was like, man, I'm 39 years old. I never had this kind of food in my life. This is unbelievable. And I said to Eitizaz Essen, I said, now I understand why the British came here and never want to leave, because of this food. So we made little jokes, and we had a good time. But then, first thing in the morning, they took us to Chakala Air Base. I got in the helicopter. We went in a U.S. Chinook air helicopter. We landed there, and before we landed, I started looking. First, it looks like this beautiful mountains, and then you get closer and you see all these homes flattened, destroyed, and all this stuff, and landslides, huge landslides and things you're seeing. So we land and we get there, and then I could smell the gangrene and the infection. So many people were lined up to get put on the helicopter to take back to the hospital, people who were in critical condition or losing limbs. So that put me right into the middle of it. And from that point, it was all for next 3 weeks, just organizing medicine, getting the doctors what they need, trying to organize all these supplies that had come in and were all over the place, get whatever I could to keep the doctors comfortable, if they needed blankets, if they needed this or that. The Army was there with us. They had some fuel for the generators. They would give us chapati in the morning, these kinds of things. So we worked very closely with the Army, Brigadier Shahryar Khan, 10th Brigade, and Brigadier Amjad Shabir of 212 Brigade Lahore. So we became friends and like brothers working together, and we would send the helicopters and pick up people and bring them back to our little tent hospital that was there in Gary Dupata. So this went on, and more doctors would come and go. And then the doctor said to me, would you please stay? Because everybody was supposed to go back in 2 weeks. But they said, we're sending new doctors, so would you be interested in, staying here for some months? And I thought to myself, why not? If that's where the need is and this is where I'm helpful, then so be it. I'm happy to stay. So I agreed to stay as long as they needed me for. And so I was there for a good 6 months before that emergency and winter operation wrapped up. By that time, some friends in the Pakistan Army said, hey, you should start your own organization because others are leaving and we need people to stay. This is going to be a long time. So many friends that I had met in the Army helped me register and helped me get started. And
so basically at that point of time, you registered this CDRS, right?
Yes, yes.
So basically I wanted to show to my audience, this is the organization basically, CDRS. ये इसका बनता है जनाब Comprehensive Disaster Response Services. So we'll talk about it, like what your organization is doing right now and what you have done back in 2005. So continue your discussion.
Sure. So there was a lot of young people in that area that I was working between Gary Dupata and the line of control and all these areas. We were going on in the helicopters, going to the tops of mountains and bringing injured people down, and the army was climbing up with their men and bringing people down on foot. And we had this little hospital there. So people locally who had lost their jobs, lost their schools, lost family members, lost their houses, they're sitting there. If they were uninjured, and luckily to be uninjured, then they had nothing to do. So some of that group came and started working with me as volunteers in that village. So as I decided to stay for some months, the doctors gave them some salary, and we started working together as a team. And so CDRS actually began working before it was even registered. Okay. Then later we registered because it takes time to register and all. I just came as a volunteer with these Pakistani American doctors. And then I got this team together of young people who'd lost their jobs. So we began working. And then it wasn't until March of 2006 that we actually started operating formally as CDRS. But because of the emergency nature of things, the government had no problem, and they gave us time to catch up and register. And we registered in AJK under the Societies Act. And then later, in order to work legally in Pakistan, we had to re-register as a trust register in Pakistan. So even though we'd registered under the Pakistan Societies Act, we registered in Muzaffarabad. So we only really had the legal right to work in AJK. So once the 2010 floods, 2009 SWAT crisis, these happened and we worked there, then we had to work in Pakistan legally. So then we changed the registration. So these legalities and things that we've managed. But I also registered a few years, it took a few years, but I registered in US. So CDRS has a registration in US. That's a US separate registration and a registration here. And that allows us to raise funds over there legally. And then we send them over from that bank account to our bank account here.
So it's all legal basically?
Yes.
Whatever you raise in US or anywhere in the world, so you basically bring back to Pakistan through legal channels.
Yes. And a lot of people that donate to us, particularly Pakistani Americans, are our biggest donor base by far. And so by donating to an American, whether it's us or some other, if they're an American entity registered as an American entity, and we take their money and then we send it to Pakistan, so they don't get accused of anything. They're safe, right? Nobody's going to ask them, or FBI will not knock on their door, police, because of what they've given us. We're responsible. So this takes a big relief, load off of people to donate something that's going to go to Pakistan, but they are not going to be held responsible, for that money. So we provide provide a service, and in 17 years of working, alhamdulillah, we've never been stopped by either the Pakistan government or the U.S. government. Although we are absolutely responsible to both of them. So if I was to do anything wrong, then both of them, would have a go at me. I would be in Adiala Road jail for several years, and then when I got released there, then they would want to also put me in the jail over there. So I believe
because you have done all the due diligence before operating, in Pakistan or maybe in US.
Yes, and I have Pakistan Center for Philanthropy has certified the Pakistan entity.
Great.
We have 501c3 tax exemption in America. We have 17 years of clean track record, never having been shut down. And I was given Tamga Isar medal from Musharraf in 2006. And so many other awards by different universities, Pakistani doctors groups. APNA last year gave me Humanitarian award because we worked very closely together to do their field work in the COVID for people who had basically lost their economic, their jobs, and they were economically struggling because of COVID. And so we helped a lot of people there. And then the floods last year, we're still doing mission. Like I just sent one team up to Gilgit-Baltistan, to an area that we've been helping. And the people there had been affected by the flash flood. Half the village got washed away. So we've been helping there. So we're still doing flood relief stuff. And
so basically you just started as one-man army in this country, and now you have a big team. So how big is your team right now?
Well, you can say one-man army, but then I started with about 10 guys in Kashmir.
Right.
They were our core team, and that's grown to over 100 employees.
Okay.
So now we have 2 medical facilities. After the 2010 floods, we started working in Swat, and we started a facility that's still there to this day, Mother-Child Health Center in northern Swat. And then we have a child health clinic in Kania at the property of a Air Force pilot, Shahid Dad, who was once the top gun in Pakistan and was given the Sword of Honor by the Pakistan military, F-16 pilot. And he lives in America now. But he on his father's ancestral lands, he's got some TCF schools built, Hunter Foundation Technical Training Academy, LRBTI Clinic, SOS Children Village, and then our Child Health Clinic. So we have those facilities. Then we have 2 House of Blessings for widows and orphans, which has widows and their children where the father has died or lost, and in some cases where they have neither the mother or father taking care of them or have died, or sometimes they've been abandoned. So we've been helping these kids. In Karachi we have one, and we have one in Islamabad, where we give them a good house, good food, good nutrition, good experiences, good education, and everything they need try to give them a normal home, as a normal family environment. And we want to, the idea is to raise them and help their mothers with training so they learn some skills where they can someday get a job or start a small business for themselves, or the kids be educated enough to save their family. There's one kid right now that we have in a family of 7, and he's the eldest. He's just been accepted into Fateh Jang Cadet College.
Great.
And he was behind in school when he first came to us 3 years ago. So it shows that, because the Army school, the cadet colleges, obviously they have a criteria.
Definitely.
And you pass the test or you don't.
Very tough criteria.
It's not whether you are an orphan or not. It's, you know, you go in there. So we have one already there for 5 months, one child, and the second one has just been accepted. Very so nice. It shows we're doing something right. And then another young lady, one of our children, has been accepted into Rifa University. So we are doing something for their education, when before they were not, some of them were either behind in school or not even going to school because of the poverty situation.
Right.
And the mothers were always in a tense situation and always, you know, going through struggles and grieving, lost their husband in tragic ways. So what we've been doing is also giving the emotional trauma, the counseling. And it's a big job, and it's not an easy job.
It is actually.
It's messy, right? Because you're dealing with people who have been badly damaged in their soul, and it takes time to build them back up. But what we've seen is, if you see a flower that's dying, has no water, and nobody's taking care of it, and then you start watering it, put it in the sunlight, you see that flower that was dying blooming, and you see it flowering and be beautiful. This is what we've seen in the children. So this project is very important to us. We also have over 700 water projects in Pakistan.
Yeah, that's important. I have
from Badin all the way up to Chitral and Gilgit-Baltistan, AJK Swat, and Balochistan, Thar Desert, and every province of Pakistan. So these projects are everything from simple hand pumps all the way to reverse osmosis water filtration, solar powered systems, gravity flow systems. So we're doing water in a big way. So over 700 in the country, and we're very proud of that fact, because it's such a need in Pakistan with climate change and with all the things that have happened. So this is a big part. So then the disaster relief, we've responded to every disaster in Pakistan. And then probably what I consider our most important project, or one of them, definitely one of the most important, is something that most people, they dismiss as nothing until I educate them.
Right.
The Islamically permissible, environmentally safe, and scientifically proven and humane method for depopulation of stray dogs.
Okay.
It's a healthcare issue for people. So if you hate dogs or love dogs, it doesn't matter. Because if you hate dogs, you're going to love us, because it's win-win situation. They will see less dogs on the street. People who love dogs will see less suffering dogs. And the ones that remain, they'll be able to have more time and resources to take care of them. So by lowering the population with the surgery, and not the castration with chemicals, because that's dangerous for the dogs. And some people like it because it's cheap, but it's not a good way, because for a stray dog, they can get infection very easily and die from the infection, because it's not like they can just walk into any clinic. You know, they're stray on the street. So it reduces rabies, it reduces disease. The dogs are healthier. They're more friendly and docile. They're not as likely to bite anybody or to be a problem. Right. And barking all night long. These things are reduced. And then once you have that issue, then over months and years, the population goes down because every female dog that can have 10, 12 puppies every 6 months or whatever, now those puppies will never even be born. So the idea is to do it that way, because the shooting and cruel poisoning is actually poisoning our environment, and it's also poisoning our relationship with Allah, because He says in the Quran that this is not permissible. These are not dangerous animals. A few of them are, but most of them you cannot go out and justify Islam to poison a puppy and mother's innocent dog, or a dog who's just sitting there doing nothing to anybody. It's not permissible. I've talked to Islamic scholars. It's not my opinion. It's their opinion. And the thing is that as long as governments and people are shooting and poisoning dogs in Pakistan, then Allah's looking down, and maybe He says, I don't know, but His commands and His Quran, what He says is don't be cruel to the animals like this. And even kindness to a sparrow, you would get a reward. And so this practice of shooting and poisoning the dogs, maybe it's bringing all these other problems on us that people don't think are related to us being cruel to these animals. But the thing is that people don't realize this. They're not bears and tigers and monkeys and pigs, wild pigs. These are domesticated creatures. God did not create dogs. He created wolves. And human beings took wolves and bred them and made them, and they eventually over 1,000 years come and become dogs and are a different kind of species. So it's very important for people to realize that by doing that, they are abandoned, stray, domesticated animals, not wild animals. So they are our responsibility. So if we're cruel to them on top of abandoning them, then we are definitely asking for trouble from Allah. So the solution is to treat them kindly, and it's actually the more scientific, better way anyway. So if you treat them kindly and feed them, give them the surgery, that they can't make too many unwanted puppies and dogs. What happens is, in an area, say like a neighborhood of Lahore, if you do this, you shoot all the dogs and you poison or you got rid of them all, and now that neighborhood is empty of dogs. What happens? Within 2 or 3 weeks, more dogs come in from the periphery. They're more aggressive because they're looking for new territory to establish, and more cases of bite and things like that. So those dogs, if you treat them, then they hold their territory, and less of the miscreant dogs or the wandering dogs will come in. So you actually, if you feed those dogs and train them, get them training, there's some army trainers that train dogs that are very expert at training dogs. We could bring them into the societies, train those dogs to be guard dogs against thieves in the night that would come and steal all and kill your family and take everything from you. So if you make it a different way, then those dogs will chase off the wrong people. They'll get to know who the people who live there are. They'll be friendly. And if we love them, they'll love us. If we hate them, like if I throw a rock at you, then definitely you're going to bite me. Right? So this is what happens. And when they get hit with a rock and get an injury, they have no doctor to go to unless one of us animal lovers comes and helps them. That gets infected with maggots, and then I've seen dogs with half of their skull eaten away by maggots just because some kid threw a rock at it. So it's a very horrible way to deal with the dogs.
I think we need to have some educational campaign on this.
Awareness.
The problem is in our society we do not have space for the animals. Even I mean, here people are not protected. You're talking about animals.
But it's for the animals, but it's for the nation and the children. Because if the dogs issue, which is a public health issue, is managed, then your bite cases and your rabies cases and your quality of life issues get down, and then that's a benefit to the whole society.
Definitely. Overall education is required on this particular subject, and you're doing a great job. Todd, I just wanted to know, first time when you came to Pakistan, how long you stayed on your first visit?
First visit was 2 weeks.
Okay.
And the reason is because I was only supposed to stay with that team for 2 weeks. So I'd already had a commitment to play a concert in Canada from before. So I got off the plane into New York. I immediately rented a car. I drove to Canada. I played the performance. I came back, and within 3 days I was back in Pakistan because I'd made a commitment to stay. But I also kept that commitment to do that last concert. So it was a very fun concert. It was amazing. I got back, and I came back, and I didn't come back to US for 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
And that was just to raise funds. Because so many Pakistani American doctors at Apna in Amana had worked with me, and they said, hey, this guy's the real deal. And they went and they to their friends, their masjid, their home, and they hosted me, and they gave the checks and the money, and then I would go back with the money to do more work. Right. So because they saw my work with their own eyes, this is how we kept it going.
And when and why you have decided to permanently stay in Pakistan? Because definitely you have rest of the world. You could have, you know, a better life in US or anywhere else in the world, because you have been to different disasters and you have been to a part of different, you know, medical emergencies. So why you selected Pakistan?
Well, better life is a different definition depending on how you look at it.
I agree.
Financially, yes, I could have probably done better in America. If I'd wanted to stay with my music, definitely that would have been better to stay there. But as far as living your purpose and living what the universe has put into you that is your purpose in life, and that you have a purpose, that has happened here. And believe you me, I've been to Philippines, I've been to the Rohingya camps in Bangladesh. This is since I left, came to Pakistan.
Okay.
So I've also gone on different missions: Haiti, Japan, the Philippines, earthquakes, tsunamis, wars, you name it. I've been to many different countries. But all those other countries, after the emergency phase, even in America, they're ready to get rid of you after thank you, but then you can go. But something about my personality and the personality of Pakistanis has come, like Irish people are very much like Pashto people.
Okay.
We are either your worst enemy or your best friend. Like,
right.
And we're very much, I even think that maybe Irish people had started out in the subcontinent and wandered out and somehow got lost and ended up over in, because Irish people historically didn't get along with British, and they had many problems, and up till just a couple of decades ago they were fighting and blowing each other up. So me as an Irish, I'm American, but as an Irish person, I sometimes when I'm in KPK, I feel like I'm with my brothers, I feel like I'm right there with them. And then some people say to me, if you keep your mouth shut, then you look just like some of these Pathans. And as long as you don't speak, then people will think you are from here, right? So we have no security. In 17 years, I've never had security. So I go to all these places and nobody bothers with me.
And in fact, I was surprised to receive you at the gate. You were just with your wife and one driver. That's it. And I have been expecting you might be having a couple of guards. We
don't need any guards. Allah is my security, and also the good work that we do in these areas. Like in SWAT, in the last decade or more, so many NGOs got kicked out of there because the people didn't want them. But the people in SWAT has asked us, please don't ever leave. And they've also told me that if there's any bad guys around, definitely they're not ever going to touch you because we have people around watching, and we know that we're not ever letting anything happen to our Gora. So a lot of love. So getting back to why I stayed in Pakistan is because of that love. And I didn't decide I'm staying here by my own. It was people asking me to stay. People from the army, people from Pakistanis who worked in UNICEF or in the Pakistan Red Crescent or in the villages. Everyone was asking me to stay. And I don't know what it was. Our personalities meshed and we come together, and they liked my personality and I liked their personality. But the people were very kind, very appreciative. There were some people who were thinking, oh, he must be a CIA agent. What is this guy? There are people that think that way. But most of the people were very kind to me and very loving, appreciative, and asking me to stay. And the food, mazadar, बहुत mazadar, laziz, and zabardast. And the children, Khubsurat, so beautiful children in Pakistan. And I don't care what color. I don't care if they're Gora or brown or black. I don't care. They're beautiful children. They're brilliant children. They need some help. So I'm here to try whatever I can do as one human being to help them. And believe you me, the mountains are amongst the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. I'm a big lover of nature and the mountains. And these mountains are incomparable, right? And so AGK or in Gilgit-Baltistan, it's unbelievable. So even though I've never really been to Pakistan as a tourist, but you doing your work amongst these most beautiful places on earth, right? I feel lucky, I feel blessed. Some people say, oh, you're cursed to live in Pakistan, but I feel blessed to live in Pakistan because you've got some of the best food I've ever had, some of the best people, some of the best mountains. What else do you want in life? Right?
So how did you manage to convince your family, because you're married at that point of time when you shifted to Pakistan and you got a son. So how did you manage to convince them?
Well, I'd already been divorced. My wife and I, while we were very good friends, my son Justin, who's 32. We broke up when he was just very small.
Okay.
Because I was in the music business and all my traveling around all over had an effect on our relationship. So basically, I was single and I came to Pakistan. And I was getting ready to get married to a girl there. And when I decided to stay in Pakistan, I asked her to come, but she was not willing to come.
Okay.
So now I'm married to Fozia and have baby Muhammad Sultan. And I'm so blessed to have them in my life. And it's so amazing. So, you know, God has rewarded me in so many ways, if not financially, because I don't own a home in this world. I don't even own a toilet in this world.
Right.
But that's okay because, you know, wherever I go, thousands of Pakistanis in America or here will let me stay at their home. So in one sense, I have no home, but I have 10,000 homes.
And how did you meet Fozia and where?
So she was at Radio Pakistan.
Okay.
And one day, one of my employees, Abed, who's still on my team from 17 years ago, he said, you know, my cousin or something like that, some relative worked at Radio Pakistan and said, we want to have you as a guest on Radio Pakistan and interview, just like we're doing today.
Right.
Except it was a radio show on Radio Pakistan. So I was like, no, I'm so busy, you know, because that's one reason you asked me earlier before the show that why I don't know Urdu better.
Yeah.
It's because I'm so busy doing the work and my team all speaks English and so many people speak English. And it's very hard for me, this Gora who never learned any other language, even English has been destroyed by Americans if you talk to the British. So I don't even know how to speak my own language properly.
Right.
So, you know, the thing is that I don't have time because I'm so involved in my work and my field work and all that. And I have an easy time communicating with people here. Even in a village, you always find somebody who knows English, and it's not been hard. Plus, I do have translators and people that translate. So I guess one reason has been that I'm so busy and it's not been a hard thing for me to communicate. But I am trying to learn now because my mother and father-in-law know only Urdu and Punjabi, and they're older. And so I'm trying, like the other day, my wife taught me the phrase, "Aapko koi cheez chahiye?" So I can get them something. So, you know, I am learning more and more day by day. I know like jaldi and chalo ji and, you know, these kinds of phrases. But when I was at Radio Pakistan, I did my interview, and then they gave me a tour of the place, and it was Fozia.
Okay.
She was in the admin department,
admin,
and she was tasked with giving me a tour of some of the. They have like historical things about Radio Pakistan and this studio and this and all these old photographs, and so she was showing me around. And I remember as I left there, I said, "Man, she will make a beautiful wife to somebody someday, an amazing wife." And I was impressed with her, because she was in a manager position and she was beautiful, and you know, so I just definitely remembered her. But then I just kind of forgot about it. But about 7 months later, 6-7 months later, I didn't know it at the time. But after she met me, she went to Mecca. She took her mother and father to Mecca, and her father had almost died of cancer. So when she was in Mecca, her and her parents prayed she will find a husband. She wasn't thinking of me.
Okay.
They were just thinking she's going to, you know, for a husband. Meanwhile, I go to America for fundraising in 2020 and the COVID-19 hits. And I couldn't leave. I couldn't get a flight back to Pakistan. So I'm sitting alone in America. I had my internet. I had my phone. I could communicate with my team. I could still do all the work online, but I couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
And during that 3 months, I was sitting alone, and I thought of Fozia. And I just sent her a WhatsApp message after getting her number from the guy who had interviewed me. And I did tell a lie. I said, maybe she will book me on some more shows. So I just sent her a message saying, "Hi, I'm this Gora. I don't know if you remember me." She said, "Who are you? What are you on?" And I said, "I was at Radio Pakistan. You gave us the tour, remember?" She says, "Oh, yeah, I remember you. Yeah, you're that Gora that came." And then she says, "What do you want? What do you want from me?" And I said, "Well, I just remembered you. I liked you a lot. And I thought that when I come to Pakistan, maybe we could, you know, meet for coffee." And she says, "Well, I don't meet people for coffee." But she sent back a heart. Oh. And I said, this means she must like me maybe. So then we started talking more. After a month, we were talking, and then we started talking seriously about marriage, because we kind of just, I don't know, clicked. And so she said, "I will marry you only if my parents agree." So when I came back to Pakistan, finally got a flight, I met her parents, and they said they liked me. And within a month, we got married. And 9 months later, Muhammad Sultan came. So it was very fast. But blessing of Allah, because I just can't imagine now life without them.
Right.
And I feel very happy that, I feel sad that Pakistan is going through the tough times, but I'm happy to be able to serve the people in need, and as well as have a family life of my own. I'm still doing music projects. We are working with Karatlain Baloch on a project, and we're working with several artists on different ways to use music to highlight our work.
Right.
It's all revolving around the work. Okay. Like Junaid Yunus, who was on Coke Studio, and he's in America now, but he's from Lahore originally. So we're working with different artists, using music, writing songs in our spare time to try to highlight the work that we're doing. Wahab Bugti, who we worked in our team in Dera Murad Jamali in Balochistan. So we're doing a project with him. So we're still able to do music, and we're doing our relief work, and we're trying our best to help humanity in this tough time that the whole world is.
So your wife Fozia is also helping you in the whole process and organization.
So before she was with Radio Pakistan, she worked as a project manager in GIZ for a safe blood transfusion project and some other work that she did. She worked with another organization as well. I can't remember their name off the top of my head. It's a smaller organization. But so she has NGO experience, and now she is looking after, as a director, our House of Blessings for Widows and Orphans. And she manages the staff and works with the staff that stays at the house and works with the teams.
So Todd, you are a converted Muslim as well.
Yes.
So when exactly you have decided that this is the right religion for you, and you wanna, previously I think so you have been to Christianity, right? So you have.
Well, I guess you can say I didn't accept Christianity ever.
Okay.
You know, my family was really not that religious, and I did go to church a few times, and I learned about it. And interestingly enough, I always believed in God, and I always heard about Jesus. But I never could accept that anyone needs to be the Son of God put on earth. That God, who created the heavens and the stars and the billions of galaxies and everything, and our DNA and all of our systems that are so miraculous, it's almost as if, how is it possible? And consciousness, that no scientist to this day, that even Einstein or none of them have ever been able to reproduce or to even explain. So how does this being need to create himself in the form of a human? So I love Christians, and I have no problem with them, except I just think they have a misunderstanding. We disagree. It's all cool. I don't have any issue with them, but I just never in my life accepted this, that Jesus was the Son of God. But also as a child, interestingly enough, I felt that he is a prophet. I felt that Jesus is a beautiful human being. So it wasn't like I disrespected him. I just didn't feel like he's the Son of God. I couldn't imagine that. I would ask preachers, how this is possible? Please explain it. I never got any answer that made sense to me. I asked about the Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. None of it was explained to me where I could get under. When I came to Pakistan and learned about Islam, and learned about Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and learned about the stories, and learned about some of the scientific things that were put in the Quran 1,400, 1,500 years ago, whatever it was, that long before we discovered these things later by telescope or whatever, like, that are there, it tells you that something's there. And then that made me understand. I had this moment, like a light bulb went off in my head, that I am already Muslim. I just didn't know what the name of it was. I had the belief without knowing that it's called Islam. And that's when I didn't even have to convert. All I had to do was say, you know, yes, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and understand that I already believed all of the important points of Islam were already in my heart before I even realized that it's called Islam. So by coming to Pakistan, I found, I wasn't even looking for it, but I found the home for my beliefs that are here.
So in Pakistan currently we have a lot of challenges, and definitely you being outsider. I mean, you've been outsider, but now it's been almost 16 years you're in this country.
It's been almost 18. It's 17 years. And a half now.
Okay, so you're in this country for a long time. Are you also in a same state of mind where we are as a Pakistani national, like we have a lot of problems in the country? We have been through a tough time during the Afghanistan war. We have been to a tough time during Musharraf time. Even currently, we are having a tough time because of this financial crisis and as well as the political instability. So how are you basically managing with all these activities? Because currently you are just residing here, and this is your home right now.
We have a donor base of people that love our work and see that we're making an impact. We're not, no one person or one organization is able to change a whole nation, but we are able to change people's lives at whatever scale we can, and it's working, and it's helping people have hope. It's helping people eat and have water to drink and have better life and better education, better opportunities. So on whatever scale, if we grow that and do it on a bigger scale, whatever Allah allows, we will do that. So we are very satisfied. Also, I believe that as long as babies continue to be born, there's hope. There's always hope. The next generation every generation has, like, when I was a kid, there was no internet and there was no like technology. And so maybe this generation that's coming up with technology, they'll come up with some discovery that we have no idea about, that we don't even know is coming, that will save everything or change the water situation or will deal with this problem or whatever. Like, so there's always hope. There's always the future. As long as we're breathing, yes, Pakistan has gone through tough times, but, I think God greatly tests, great nations, right? So great nations are tested greatly. They go through tough times, and there's good people here, and there's lessons that we all have to learn. There's tests that we all have to go through at an individual level, at a community, societal, provincial, and country, and as humanity as a whole. And we are definitely being tested now, and things may get worse before they get better. But I believe that we always have an opportunity to look within and look it around and do something. Don't expect other to do it or the government to do it, but involve yourself in whatever you can do. If everybody does that, then we will have a chance. Going back to the one thing I mentioned, the second gift that my mother gave me. First was a guitar. Second was a Rand McNally Atlas of the World, a big red atlas of the world. Well, I went upstairs and I was by myself and I just opened it up. The first thing whatever the first page is, and I saw this big mountain range, says Himalayas, and it was northern India, northern Pakistan. Line of control was in the center. I didn't know what the line of control was, but there's a big mountain range of Himalayas, and I remember looking at that, and in front of the mountains, just where the mountain started, I saw this little star, and it said Islamabad, and something in me kept looking at that, and I don't even, as a child, I didn't say to myself, oh yeah, one day I'll go there, one day I'll be there, but somehow in the spiritual or cosmic quantum scale of things, something inside me understood something, because I was staring at that for a long time and feeling some connection that as a child of 12 years old, I didn't understand. So fast forward, I forgot about it. Later, when I came to Pakistan and landed, and the next day we were at Chakala Air Base in the morning, getting ready to take off, Major General Javed comes in to brief us about the helicopters. Major Nadir was there. I think Colonel Abrar Ismail was there, who's still like a brother to me. And they're briefing us on the helicopters and who's coming and going and what we're doing and where we're going to land. So I saw this map. They had a map of this area, the mountains and the Islamabad, there's the star and all their area of operations. And boom, that memory of that map came to me. And I said, wow, I was
the same place.
I was supposed to be here. It was all along that I will be here.
Okay. So overall, you're satisfied with the kind of life you are living right now?
I'm very satisfied. I'm not satisfied with the situation in the world. I pray every day. I'm very sad about the wars and the suffering, and it weighs on me like it weighs on everybody else. But if I give in to hopelessness or sadness, I will have no ability or energy to help those children who remain, who need us to be strong. We have to be strong for them, no matter what horrible thing is going on. Till the time we are not breathing anymore, or we are sent somewhere else off this planet, then I will continue to do whatever I have to do to help as many people as I can.
Thank you, Todd. Actually, I wanted to have this conversation going further, but the thing is, like, I'm having around 102 fever at the moment.
Oh,
and for last
I hope
7
you feel
days,
better.
I'm very energetic in my podcast, but you might have observed during the whole
No, I didn't know. I didn't notice at all.
No. The guys can understand, actually. My energy level is almost at 40-50.
Well, please get lots of fluids in you and take rest. And maybe on a second time, we can have another round.
It's been almost 8th day. I'm having antibiotic. I've, bad throat and having a fever. That's the reason, like, I'm not very energetic. And I'm sure, like, my audience can also understand, like, why I'm not energetic. Because most of the time, I try to, stay very active.
I think you've done very well so far.
That's why, like, during the whole podcast, I was not talking much because I was not feeling very energetic.
Take foods that have a lot of vitamin C, a lot of vitamin K, a lot of vitamin D, and a lot of fluids, arugula, lettuce, and berries, and fish like salmon.
But
they all have those things you need.
Not able to take anything because of the bad throat, actually. When I, swallow...
Chicken soup?
Yeah, chicken soup.
Chicken soup is also very good. Start with that, but then some of the other things I mentioned, try to look up these things, because these type of things are good for you. But if you only take vitamin D, but you don't also take vitamin K2, then your body cannot absorb these things as well. So there's certain combinations of things that you also have to take together. And although I'm a big guy, I've gained 125 pounds in Pakistan, I'm very energetic. No, people half my age and half my size cannot keep up with me. Just ask my team. But I am trying to eat better. But the problem is, in Pakistan, every Pakistani loves to feed me because they know I like the food. So it's one of those things where it's been hard for me to keep a diet because the food is so amazing and so enjoyable. And even people will force me, like, I'm full, I don't need any more, thank you. No, what are you talking about? Here, you have to take more. So it's kind of like a blessing and a curse. But
so you have left all the American food lifestyle and you shifted to complete desi food.
I love American food too. Don't get me wrong. I will eat all of that. I love Japanese food, Italian food, American food, Pakistani food. I mean, there's very little that I don't like, which is one of my problems. But Pakistanis are so hospitable, so loving, and one way they love you most is through their hospitality and feeding you. So. If I'm going to die, what a way to! This is the best way to die. But I have been working on my diet and trying to eat healthy and stuff. So I've been learning a lot about what to take, and if you're sick with flu or COVID or these, and I had COVID and I had to be on oxygen for 2 weeks. So I've learned more about what kind of nutrition that one is needing. So it's helped me feel better. And hopefully I can lose some weight and work on that. But do look after yourself.
Sure, definitely. And I also do vlogging. So for last 2-3 days, I'm not able to basically put anything in the vlog as well. So before I end the conversation, I just want to have last 1 or 2 questions. Are you still on American nationality, or did you manage to get the Pakistani nationality?
Well, I still have American nationality, and in Pakistan through my wife. Right now, it's a long process, but I have the POC card and NIC card from NADRA. And we had to apply for that. And we had to go through the whole process of showing all of the documents and marriage certificate and birth certificates and this and the other thing. And alhamdulillah, I have the POC card. It's not full citizenship, but it does allow me to be here with my family and get the benefits, many of the benefits of citizenship. And inshallah, as time goes by, I actually got angry with Pakistan last year. I think it was last year. So I heard this cricketer came. He came here for 1 day, and he did nothing except he was a cricket star, and they gave him the honorary citizenship. And I thought to myself, I've been here for almost 17 years, and they're not giving me this honorary citizenship.
So you're talking about Darren Sami, I believe.
I think so. They gave him a citizenship, and I thought, I was very jealous of him that he come here 1 day because he's a big cricketer. And Todd Shea, what am I, chopped liver? What am I, just bones to throw away? Old mutton bones. I deserve also this. Definitely. If he deserves for 1 day being a cricketer, then definitely being a humanitarian for at that time 16 and a half years, whatever. Now it's almost 18. So then why not my honorary citizenship?
Inshallah, you'll get one day.
If they make me earn it over years, I will do that too, because I do love this country, and I think it's demonized unfairly around the world by people who have an agenda. There's people who have an agenda against Pakistan, so they want to make it look bad. They want to cause problems, and they want to. Pakistan its biggest problem is its location. it's good to be in the center of everything. It can also be bad because everyone's trying to pull you in their direction. Exactly. Everyone's trying to manipulate. Everyone's trying to make a trouble. So hats off to Pakistanis to have to live in this situation, and still Pakistan is here. And I've told many people, I've said, I've seen the young people of Pakistan that I'm convinced there is absolutely no power on earth that only Pakistanis could destroy Pakistan.
Exactly.
India, RAW, CIA, America, Russia, China, Afghanistan, India, whoever, Saudi Arabia, whatever they do, all to fight over Pakistan, still they cannot destroy Pakistan except for Pakistanis.
I always say one thing: if you look at the globe, we as a country is just a dot on the globe, but still we have a huge impact on the world.
You're a dot on the globe, but you're a dot on the globe that is the center of
the location.
Center of trade routes and geopolitics in the whole of human history.
Exactly.
The crossroads are here. And not only that, if you think about the religious fault lines as well as the literal fault lines of the sub-Asian continent coming up into the Asian continent, which has created the three great mountain ranges, that pressure has created this here. So, and then you have one of the first, the Indus River civilization, one of the very first organized communities and farms and cities, along with Mesopotamia in the area of Iraq. So here is a tremendous history and a tremendous, place in history, and it remains that way. But that also creates problems and issues that people have to face.
I own you.
Yes, and then Alhamdulillah, they have the nuclear bomb here, and so this protects Pakistan from those who would like to rip it apart.
Exactly,
and that's a good thing. And I always tell my friends, I go back home and I talk to these Goras who like Trump or whatever. Oh, Pakistan, why are you helping Pakistan? And they're terrorists there, and they're this and that, and they have people that they have the nuclear bomb there. I said, America has used nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
And it's threatened nuclear bomb. Pakistan has it as a defensive deterrent.
Exactly.
You have never seen Pakistan use their weapon even to threaten, even to make a verbal threat, even though they have this incredible power.
Yeah.
So think about that next time. And I said, and when you talk about what aid America sends to this part of the world, whether it's Pakistan or some other nation, I said, don't forget, maybe they give $200 billion a year to the so-called developing world, but they never tell you that they take $2 trillion away. Exactly. So who's developing who? There's a lot of things that Americans don't understand because they don't realize that they've been affected by propaganda.
Basically, they have been taught on the media that we are just terrorists.
They think that everybody here should change their hearts and minds without understanding that their hearts and minds need some work. I love my country. I love America. I love the people. But they're very gullible and they're too trusting of their stupid idiot leaders who don't care a thing about them. Right. These leaders, they only care about power and money, and they don't care who they run over or which countries they destroy in order to keep their power. And it's disgusting, disgraceful, but I have one comfort in my heart that one day, on the day of judgment, Allah will sort all of them out.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Todd, nowadays, we are running in a digital era. But I have seen like you're doing a great work. Even before you confirmed for the podcast, you just sent me your link, and I've been just going through a couple of your videos. I've been just going through a couple of your posts. You have done amazing work in the past almost 2 decades. But why you're not very much active on social media? Because I personally believe if you put a little bit of energy on social media, your work can be shown to many people. So why you're not very much focused or I would say like aggressive on social media?
Well, one of the reasons has been I'm so busy in the field and with my team. But you're right. And you will notice if you look at the last few months, you would notice that we have been more active, and we have a team now that is making these things. About 2 years ago, I hired Salman Rafiq, Fifu, who is the drummer for Atif Aslam and Umair Jaswal for many, many years. But he's also very talented in the arts and media. So he started making films of our work, and we would play those films when I go back to the US, and they made a huge impact. Right. So this has happened, and we also have a new social media team. And so the thing is that Todd Shea, I'm a musician, I can play the guitar, I can barely sing, I can write a few songs, I can do work in the field, but I have no training or expertise in this social media. So now that we've got some people on board that know this, game that now hopefully you'll start seeing more difference and impact. We have been, that's why I called Rehan Alawala and he gave me your name because he said to me, you know, these are the kinds of shows you need to be on. Right. So inshallah, with these kinds of efforts that we're doing more and with the social media team and with our media team recording, because before we did our work, but we didn't worry about recording it. And so people didn't know about it. So for many years. So now we've started to get savvy to this fact that we need to show our work more, not as a bragging that and showing we're so great, but in order to get support and inspire others. Exactly. This is why we're showing our work.
And in fact, this will multiply your efforts in many fold.
And it's already started to work, and inshallah we'll get more and do more. And if anybody wants to, you know, see our profile or go to our website,
we'll definitely put in the link. Guys, you need to just make sure that we put a couple of images from this catalog and also put the link of the website and
a very basic profile that just gives some of the, I mean, we could make a much more in-depth profile, but this is a simple and to the point profile with some of the most necessary information. And at the website, we have so much more information. We have a YouTube channel now, and like you had rightly said, starting to push these things more.
So inshallah, we'll try to push as much as we can. We also wanted to contribute a little bit on this, you know, noble cause.
Thank you, brother.
If you know, anybody can, through our podcast, can, you know, visit your profile and wanted to help you, definitely it will be a great
I'm absolutely more than, I would be honored to come back when you're feeling a little better. And any questions or anything you still want to go into, I'm ready.
Last question before we end the podcast. This is the question which I asked from most of my guests. How do you see Pakistan in 2025 from digital perspective? Because this era is all about digital.
I think Pakistan and the rest of the world is going to go through some very tough times, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't the case. But it's going to go through tough times. But it's a nation of 230 million people and growing. It's going to have to face some of the issues of population and climate change. But when I see these kids coming out of the middle of the Thar Desert or Balochistan or rural areas or AJK, pure white shalwar kameez, or pant shirt that is totally clean, and you see the environment they're living in, and somehow they look spotless, and then you find out that they're a Microsoft engineer, or this one has this award from international, you know, educate. And I'm sitting to myself saying, it's unbelievable, the brilliance here. So with that kind of brilliance and energy and hope, I'm sure that Pakistan will sort its issues out. Sure. I think in 25 years, there will hopefully be a progression and a transformation and an evolution of the country more towards, you know, caring about every child being educated and having an opportunity, and that some of these problems will get real. You know, one of the things is when the politicians are fighting over who's in charge, they forget, they're so busy in the fight of who will be in charge that the people's work gets stopped, right? Exactly. So, and that affects the whole nation. So if we can start figuring these things out so that there's more stability politically, that whoever's going to be in charge, that there should be some stability and that they can actually do their work. And then if a new government comes in democratically or whatever, that the person who comes in should not wipe out everything the one before him did. If they did something good program, keep that program going. Exactly. Don't finish it because it wasn't you that started it. So there are some advices I would have, but when I look at the children of Pakistan and I look at some very good education here, there is some very good schools and there's some very good universities that you don't need to go abroad to get good education. In fact, in America, they're relying on Pakistani American doctors to go to the rural areas.
I understand.
And you know, you see this, right? There's a brilliant people. And I could go on and on about the brilliance of Pakistan. Because of that brilliance and because of the hope of the children and because I believe that no matter how hopeless something might seem, Allah can change it however He wants to. I'm sure that in 25 years, Pakistan will still be on the map, will still be rising and functioning and making its history and making its way to whatever the future holds for all of us. And definitely Pakistan will still be at the center of everything going on in the world.
Inshallah.
Hopefully in a good way.
Inshallah, in a good way. Thank you very much, Todd. Pleasure having you here in the podcast, and we have covered a few points, and still few points are pending. Definitely, I'll have you again in the podcast, and we can discuss again.
Inshallah.
And sorry about my health and not being energetic in the podcast.
Please look after yourself.
Definitely. आप लोगों का बहुत शुक्रिया जी. I hope आप लोगों को ये podcast पसंद आई होगी. टॉड जैसे मुहिब्बे वतन भी यहाँ पे हैं. ये हैं तो अमेरिकन, लेकिन इस वक्त इनका दिल जान हर चीज़ पाकिस्तान के लिए है। जहाँ पे 22-25 करोड़ अवाम पाकिस्तान को छोड़ के बाहर जाना चाह रही है, वहाँ पे टॉड जैसे लोग बाहर से यहाँ पे आके एक टफ लाइफ गुजार भी रहे हैं। डेफिनेटली देखें, अमेरिकन सिटीज़न के लिए पाकिस्तान जैसी जगह पे, और मैंने इनकी पर्सनल कुछ वीडियोस देखी हैं, ये मेरे ऑफिस में भी जिस तरह से आए हैं, डेफिनेटली इनकी वो लग्जरी लाइफस्टाइल नहीं है। ये इतनी बेसिक सी गाड़ी में आए हैं, कोई गार्ड नहीं है इनके साथ, किसी किस्म के कोई साथ पे प्रोटोकॉल नहीं है। वाइफ के साथ आए हैं अपनी, ड्राइवर गाड़ी चला रहा है, बच्चा इनके हाथ में, किसी किस्म के कोई नखरा नहीं, कोई प्रोटोकॉल नहीं, कोई कुछ नहीं। अगर इन जैसे लोग यहाँ पे आके एडजस्ट हो सकते हैं तो हम पाकिस्तानी जो इसी मिट्टी में पैदा हुए हैं, डेफिनेटली हमें भी इस मिट्टी का कर्ज चुकाना है। तो इस पॉडकास्ट को ज़रूर देखिएगा, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिएगा, बेल आइकन को ज़रूर क्लिक कीजिएगा ताकि आने वाली तमाम पॉडकास्ट आप तक टाइमली पहुँचें। एंड एक्सट्रीमली सॉरी फॉर बीइंग नॉट वेरी एनर्जेटिक इन द पॉडकास्ट, क्योंकि इस वक्त भी हालत टाइट हुई है। अपना ख्याल रखिएगा, अपने इर्द गिर्द के माहौल को साफ रखिएगा। टिल देन, अल्लाह हाफिज़।